Hi, I'm Zach from the Lawbreakers, and this is the new redubbed video series called Sidekicks. In these videos, Mike and myself will be doing complimentary videos to the big discussions we put on the week before. Anyway, to the main meat of the episode now. Magic systems in stories vary story to story. There is a school of thought out there in the wilds of the internet of a scale to describe these magic systems as soft magic and hard magic systems. These ain't the only way you can have to describe them. You've got irrational and rational if you want more complex sliding scales about defining the system, and possibly other variant accesses you could put out there. Now, you may have noticed on screen that they have several different scales pop up, and you might see quite a few similarities between them, as well as the franchises used between them. And in this video, I'll be taking you through my thought process of choosing a magic system for a world I want to create, be it for a homebrew D&D world, a short story, or that one great idea that you keep working on. Yes, that's what I meant, totally. Anyway, so let's begin. And the first one I'm going to pick is soft magic, or as I like to call it for you, making a case for anarchy. If you want magic in your story and you don't want to properly define it, then that's okay. You don't need a complex guide or compendium in order to have magic in your world. In fact, I'd argue more stories could benefit from having a more relaxed rule set if your story ain't going to explore them. And, you know, like I said, you don't want to go you don't want to delve too deep in exploring rule sets when you have characters you could be developing in the meantime, or the world to explore. You could kind of treat them like superpowers from any comic book or manga, really, apart from ones that go in depth on them. Looking at you, Full Alchemist. A guy can just fly because he can. One guy can just hit real hard. This guy's super fast. You can just leave it as simply as that and use context clues to help your audience just understand that magic exists, or a power system in some case, but it isn't the focus of the story. I mean, look at One Punch Man. Saitama just punches hard. It is. That's just the point of the story. The character is the main driving point, and the world around him. Not how did he get that powers. I mean, the explanation we do gets pretty good, but you'll find out if you watch the series. I recommend it. It's just a way to show character development or understanding of the world around them. For instance, I'm working on a short story called Kid Chaos, and it works on the premise that, for the magic system anyway, the main story I'll leave some of the day, sidetrack, that magic is controlled by emotions. So say a noted cryomancer has to keep their emotions in check in order to control the ice they're creating or crafting or doing whatever they choose to with. So if they get, say, a short temper as a character flaw, then while they're trying to control this cryomancy, one thing snaps and kaboom, it's now pyromancy. It's just a way to kind of show that emotions control the magic. Now, an argument I've heard be discussed is that sometimes that if you don't define a rule set, you can easily just go and have people just have godlike powers one moment and then snap, they've lost it and they just can't even do the basics anymore. Now, I think that's more down to person personally. That's how you got to kind of catch yourself being like, okay, I've gone from throwing planets 1 minute to struggling to do basic telepathy. If you're going to do that, try and make it so it's at least a little bit coherent in your world and not just, well, I said so. After all, limitations can help your story greatly. Trying to find ways to tell your story while thinking inside the box can yield greater results. I think that's a quote from Orson Welles or something like that. I can't remember. I might be misquoting someone else misquoting him. Anyway, let's move on to the next subject, which is rules lawyers. Sometimes having a strong and enforced rule set can be more beneficial to your story. Just see Avatar, Fullmetal Alchemist. They have strongly defined rule sets that are the core component of those stories. I mean, there's other parts, but understanding the rules does help how those stories are told. Now, Death Note isn't the first thing you'd think of for having a magic system, but they do have a defined rule set and limitations in place. For instance, Light or Kira, however you want to define them, can't have a prisoner escape 1 hour to midnight from Tokyo and then fly around the world and get to Paris so he can write a suicide note before jumping off the top of the Eiffel Tower. That's an impossibility, and one of the rules of many in place that help define how Light puts together his plans or schemes. Now, if you want to be clever with your magic system, you can have it be a metaphor for a topic that you want to explore. You could have magic work in the same way as a currency does. You get a select amount each month. How do people spend it? What jobs get paid better magic than others? Is it straight mana? Is it a magical supply? Is it a dose? These are many topics you can explore. Your setting's not even defined to being a modern day setting, a fantasy setting, a sci-fi setting, whatever type of setting you want, post-apocalyptic. Try and mold in the same way that Metro does. But for this instance, we're talking about a modern day setting, because in that, we can justify the existence of lighters and toolkits and other such equipment in the world, even though magic exists. But do you want to waste your magic by just putting your finger up to light your cig? Or do you want to reach into your pocket, grab that lighter, and spark it up? Do you want to, like, instantly put that bed together by just snapping your finger? Or are you going to put the time and effort in to make it yourself? These are the type of questions you could have characters think about and explore about how the magic is being used. You could have people save up to cast bigger spells. There's a mana shortage. What's the magical economy looking like? So on and so on. Once again, this is poorly timed, I understand, but we don't control the world around us. Explore the possibilities and ways you could have your system back up what you want to say. Is it a critique on a social economic platform, be it capitalism or communism? Is it about consumers, or is it about, say, a story of a person trying to save up and it's very hard for them to do, struggle in the world, but in the end it's worth it because they reach their goal? Your story isn't really defined by the magic system, but your magic system can define how the world interacts. Just kind of keep that in mind, that balance in your head when you're trying to write, when you're using a more complex magic system, that your characters are just important as explaining the rules of the world. Anyway, I think that's just enough food for thought for one day. I've been Zach with the Lawbreakers. Please remember to subscribe, give us a like, and leave a comment. Anyway, that's all, folks. Goodbye.